Welcome to ARW. I'm Harold. I'm the resident redneck here. And the last video I did, well, we were, I don't know, fixing up a few things, making a part for a Harbor Freight bandsaw. And I said, well, I told you about taking 2 weeks to change the solenoid on my Murray riding mower because I'd get tired real quick. And so then I pointed out the air conditioner in here had burned out, and I bought a new one. And I said I figured that'd take 2 weeks to install. Well, actually it just took 2 days. One day they had set something on the case and bent the case of it. So I spent one day straightening out the case, and the next day I did the carpenter work on the wall and stuffed the air conditioner in. So things are going a lot better. And it's a lot better air conditioner than the one I had before. This one's got a dehumidifier function, so I don't have to, run it as an air conditioner. It should cost me a lot less money. At least I think it will. Alright, I'll show you why I got it done so fast. Now that's it right over there. That's an LG, and it's a lot better than the one I had before. It was a little bit bigger, a little wider. It wasn't any taller, but it was wider. Alright, this is supposed to represent the wall of that plywood skin I put on it. And this is the hole. Now I put the other air conditioning in there several years ago, and being an old geezer I forgot exactly what I had done. But when I cut the hole, you've got a stud, and 16 inches over you got another stud, 16 inches over you got another one. So at the time I didn't have the plywood skin on there, any insulation around it, and so I put screws in the ends. I cut off the middle stud, laid a couple of 2x4s across the top, a couple across the bottom. And so since this from here to here, center to center is 32 inches, I had to kind of make the hole a little smaller. And I run a 2x4 up. I didn't know that until I cleaned all the plywood off over there and got a look at it. So this went much faster because all I had to do was move this guy over about 2 1/4 inches. The height was just right already. Then of course I had to go outside and cut the siding off, but it was a real easy job. I set it on top of that file cabinet over there. For the installation, I set it on top of that file cabinet, rolled it up to the wall, got a ladder and stood beside it, and had the boss lady come out and put 2x4 flatways under it until it was up even with the hole. Then I went outside and just dragged it in there. It slipped in like slick as snake snot. I was surprised everything went so good and so quick. Alright, now that we're going to get down to what we're going to work on today. This is what we're going to work on today. I want to try sharpening some end mills. This is a D-bit grinder. Okay, now I've watched various videos of other people, because the manuals that come with these things are maybe a little worse than useless. And so you have to, go to videos made by people a lot smarter than you and figure out how to do it. And that's what I did. Now everything was explained quite well in these videos, except for this little ring here. Now the use of this ring is obvious. It's to tell you when you're straight on with the grinding stone. The bad part about this ring is when you set it, you can tighten this little screw down as tight as you want to, and it still doesn't stay. And you can't be sure when you move it that the ring moves with you. Okay? Now, I asked somebody smarter than me, and I guess I didn't ask it right, but I didn't come up with a reason for why it's that way. So I'm going to take this apart. If I'd been building this thing, I would have put it over here and put a stop at 90 degrees that this thing would screw into, so that you could be sure that 0 was 0. And then I mean 90 degrees, yeah, at 90 degrees. And back around here at 0, I would have put a stop in at 0. Now what they did is they put 2 little cams under here for you to use to adjust it once you've got it right. Well, how do you know you're right? It's just a real pain getting it right. So I'm going to take it apart and see if there's some holes here that maybe the tip of this is broke off in one of them or something. I don't know. These things don't always arrive in good shape. I'm going to remove the bolt down here and we'll just take her apart. I'll bring you back. Alright, I pulled the lock nuts off and I pulled this little guy out, and it's got stuff in there. Stuff I didn't know was in there. Maybe that's the missing stop or something. So I'm going to lay it down over there on my toolbox, and we'll see what we'll see. Now once you've located where 0 is and 90 degrees and all that, they have these little tiny cams that are supposed to serve as the stop. Okay, you can turn this around and it'll stop, but it's only going to, as near as I can tell, it's only going to stop on one side. Maybe it'll stop both accurately. I lost the little Allen wrench that came with it, and I was lucky enough to find another one, so I don't have to go get the boss lady to find it for me. Anyway, these little cams are supposed to locate the thing, the stop, instead of having a hole. But we've still got the problem that the ring is not reliable. It'll move on you, and you don't know where you're at, so it doesn't matter whether you set a stop or not. Okay, so there's no ridge over there on something for this guy to screw down against. This guy is nothing but just a handle. That's all he is. He can't be anything else. The only place that he could probably screw down and hit anything is right there, you know. No wonder it won't stay still. So that means that to know whether I'm on 90 degrees, this is mostly useless completely, because it's just a loose ring that floats around the stupid thing. I'm going to have to figure out what was the logic behind it, I guess. But I'll have to use I guess a machinist square and square it up against the stone, and then use the little cam to make that spot, you know, permanent or semi-permanent. Little cams can move too. It just seems to me like they would have drilled a hole in a couple of places so that you could be guaranteed that was where you wanted to go. I don't think it's a good design. Then who am I to say? Okay, so the thread on this is a 4 by 0.70 millimeter, and I'm going to extend the thread a little further so this thing can screw in further. Maybe just get me into more trouble, I don't know. And I'm not going to film turning the tap on it. It's boring. Okay, I went over there and I threaded this little screw all the way up to the knurling, and now it actually does bottom out on that ring. I don't know if that's an improvement or not. It's good or bad, but I'm going to go back over there and see if that will make the thing hold still while I turn it around. It may be that it just gets in the way. We don't know. We'll find out in a minute. Okay, so I found a piece of 1/4 inch tool steel and a 1/4 inch collet and stuck it in there. So I'm going to try to make it lie even with the surface of that cup, which may or may not be really a true 0 degrees, but right this minute it's the best I've got. Okay, the piece of tool steel would go almost to the cup, so I needed some way to tell when it was flat with the diamond, and I got a little gauge block stuck in there to take up the room. And I've got the ring showing 0. I've set the little cam. There's a little cam under here. Find it. There's a little cam under here. I've got set screw tightened down on it, so that should be at 0 degrees. That should be dead on straight with the cup. Now I'm going to move everything back and turn this. Alright, so I knocked the camera forward and it went to doing some task or the other that shouldn't be interrupted. But anyway, since this two wouldn't touch each other, I got the gauge block, stuck it in there, and I can't see light between them at either end, so they must be as well aligned as I can make them. Okay, now then I set the little cam, under here right there. I set that little cam up tight against it, tighten the set screw here. So now I'm going to take it, disassemble this stuff, turn it back around where it should be 90 degrees, and try to set the cam where the ring says 90 degrees. And that's putting an awful lot of trust in that ring not to move, if you know what I mean. Well, here we go again. I had this thing set, had the little ring sitting on the pointer on 0, and I went to turning it, and look at there, the little ring stops turning. Completely useless. Now I've got this back on the cam that said that's the spot that was 0, and I can get this little pointer to read 0, but when I turn it around this way, I'm lost again. I hope maybe out in the one of your viewers there is an absolute genius on this thing, and you can tell me exactly what the heck I'm doing wrong and how to do it right. You know? Alright, I don't like touching that abrasive blade with a gauge block, but I've done it again, and this time I'm going to assume that that's 90 degrees. And maybe the stupid little ring will hold still long enough for me to move it around to 88 without moving itself. That we don't know. But I'm going to assume this is 90 degrees. I'm going to set the little cam to hold it there, and then we'll go on with our rash end mill sharpening. Okay, so here we are, assuming a lot. And I'm assuming I've got this thing at 88 degrees. I'm assuming I'm at 2 degrees this way. And I'm assuming those are the right settings to grind each one of those little pieces there. So the only other thing I'm going to have to do is set this collar up here so that I'll know when I get to the exact same spot each time. You know, because I'm sure I'm going to have to grind off a little bit of each one of these, because they'll be dull on the edge as well as the end, right? So let me get set up and then we'll start the grinding. Alright, I'm going to ease in on that little booger. I've got this set on 0, latched down with a little latch, and then I can turn it 90 degrees by the dial, because I've got, like I said, set the dial on 0. This guy over here, I'll have to 0 him out when I touch. So let's see when we touch if we even know it. My ear tells me I touched. So I'm going to grind off a couple of thousandths just first time around here. I think I ought to put a little bit of color on there. Don't you think so? Alright, let's see if I take the black off of it. Not really. With my old eyes and this light and such, I can't see much. Alright, I'll move her in another thousandth and see if that scrapes any black off. No, I'm not really touching it, I don't guess. got the stop set, so I'm going to go just a little ways. Okay, I just taught myself a valuable lesson here, and you know, we're thinking we're going to sacrifice this end mill anyway. You got to be careful which side of zero you're on. That's why I wasn't seeing the thing cutting the black off. I was shortening that. I was shortening that flute, but I was going on the wrong side of it. So I was down on this side of the zero, and I needed to be up here. It sure pays to pay attention to what you're doing. Alright, I'm going to turn this thing 90 degrees to get to the next flute, and we'll see what we see from there, if this thing will turn. Oh, I've got it latched. It'd be better to unlatch it. Alright, it's not going to hold it steady unless I go around here. There we go. Alright, so we've come around another 90 degrees, and we're going to do the next flute, and I'm assuming I need to go 15 or 20 thousandths up these things to really get the edges clean, but since it's a preliminary, we'll just do them all the same size, however much it is. I doubt seriously you'll see much once I get my hands up here and start moving things around, but we'll see. I think that didn't cut very far. I can move it in a little bit more. Alright, I moved it in a ways it cut all the way to the end of the flute. So obviously you'll have to go all the way around this thing, maybe twice, getting it right. So instead of letting you guys make me nervous, like I said, instead of letting you guys make me nervous, I'm going to go and do what you saw 5 more times probably. And then I'll bring you back and we'll take a look at it. Alright, the only thing we can say for certain here is we have 4 shiny new surfaces. I've ground the black off, and they look to be at the right angle. Now I didn't correct this back relief yet. I know I'm supposed to, but I thought I would hold with what we've got for a little bit and see what this looks like if I cut a piece of steel. Alright, the light's not really right for you guys, but that's the best they can do right now. And we'll take about a 5/1000 cut and see if it throws up a burr or anything. I guess to do that I should move over and cut halfway down it so that if there's going to be a burr, you can see it. You guessed that right. Okay, it wasn't a win after all. That right there is actually that little dark spot you see, that's a groove. So that's not right. I'm going to take a cut across the whole thing and see what happens. Alright, so all that did was just move the groove over to the middle when I ran the end mill down the thing. So the center of that end mill is cutting deeper than the flutes. Okay, I figured it out. Wasn't that hard. This is center cutting end mill, and these 2 flutes go way in. One over here and the one over here. And I didn't go all the way to the bottom of them, so that left a piece sticking out further down than the flutes. So I'm going to take it back over there and regrind it and see if I can't make it right. All the stuff out here at the edges was making a really nice smooth cut, so we may have the right formula, we just haven't got it carried off right yet. Hang loose. Okay, the lose turns to a win. As you can see, it's flat all the way across now. I ground further into the center, got rid of the center cutting part, and I was of course warned in a couple of videos that this will no longer be a center cutting end mill. But if I can sharpen it 40 or 50 more times, it'll be like getting a free end mill whether it's center cutting or not. I can work around that. That looks really nice. Now I'm sure that every time I go to sharpen it, I should shorten the thing by a good 20 or 30 thousandths. One of you guys tell me, you know, but I know that the edge cut is going to still be dull. I haven't yet worked out how to sharpen the edges. Oh, we'll probably see what Bubba's up to. We hadn't talked to him in a real long time, have we? Bubba and Cooter went down to the Ford dealer and they were looking at this shiny new Mustang, and they couldn't make their mind up for sure about it. So the dealer says, well, why don't you boys just drive that car on home and come back in the morning, and if you really like it, he said, I'll make you a good deal on it. So they drive home and they're so excited they lock the keys in the car. And Bubba says, well, Cooter, he says, I thought you had the keys. And Cooter says, no, Bubba, he says, you was driving. And Bubba says, well, I don't know what we're going to do. And Cooter says, well, he says, you better figure out something pretty quick. He said, it looks like it's going to rain, and you left the top down.